Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting edition of Transformers Reviews. Well, guys, if you saw the title, you know that today is not going to be our typical style video. We're actually going to be looking at 10 figures overall, but they're not 10 figures specifically from 2021. But these are actually figures that I picked up over the course of 2021. So if you see ones that aren't exactly from this year, now you know why. But they're not necessarily the best either. Some of them actually are, starting with number 10. And number 10 on our list is actually Universe Dirge. Now, for anybody that has seen Cybertron, this is basically just a recolor of the Cybertron Starscream. So essentially they just took a Conehead name and made him not a Conehead. Now, the thing with all the Cybertron toys is they had a gimmick. They had a forced ship key or a cyber planet key, and when you plugged it in there, you can see that he popped out the Starscream-esque arm blades that character was known for. So basically kind of what you're seeing on the screen right now, that's about the extent of how poseable he is. However, even whenever he's in jet mode, I have to say I like the design and he just looks pretty sick. So that's why the old Dirge here lands at number 10. Number 9. Alternators / Binaltech Shockwave. Now, in my opinion, Shockwave is probably the best out of the whole bunch. Him and Jazz, because they're the same mold, and Jazz looks pretty sick in the white. But again, it does have those Shockwave cues, obviously the head and the arm cannon. Okay, here's the thing about the alternators, is the majority of them had their engines turn into firearms, and a lot of them were crap. But as you can kind of see with Shockwave, because of his and Jazz's being made out of the muffler, it's got more of a legit look to it. Plus the proportions, while they're not crazy and just excellent in every facet, they're better than a lot of those guys. But the majority of them were car focused first and robot mode second. So that's why a lot of the robot modes are not as good. But you know, in like 2005 or whenever this guy came out as a Mazda RX-8, he looks sick. He's kind of like an interesting what-if take. Kind of like that Battleship Shockwave that we took a look at. So anyway, because again, he's not so perfect in robot mode, that's why he lands where he does. Number 8. Whoo boy, it is wildly imperfect because of all the gimmick-heavy thing this thing is unfortunately involved in. We actually reviewed the remolded one that came out before the Masterpiece that was at that time considered to be the most show accurate. I also had the garish universe color version. His gimmicks is what kind of makes him fall lower on this list because they are very intrusive and sometimes they don't always work well. When you see like his season 2 form compared to this one, it's a vast improvement, but because I never had an original release Optimus Primal, I had to include him on this list. Number 7. Of course, this really shouldn't shock anybody, because if I was going to get the original release version of Optimus, did you think I was going to pass on Megatron? Because up until now, if you guys have seen some of my other videos, the only version of this mold that I had was actually the T-Rex mold. So even though T-Rex and Megatron have had their Kingdom updates, there was something about the fact of never having this guy in this color. And I love him. The reason he lands higher than Optimus is because he is not so gimmick heavy. He has like 1 or 2, but sometimes going the simpler route is a lot better. It's Megatron, come on. So if you're shocked, I don't know why. Number 6, this guy being Earthrise. I really like it. Now you can flip up the turbines to give it more of that traditional Seeker look, but this is Thrust. He's not about that. This is where his jets are supposed to be, more towards his waist level. And for some reason that should bother me, but it doesn't because it just looks awesome. Now while I will not have all 3 of the cone heads, Thrust is one of my favorites as far as that goes. Him and Dirge are kind of like level pegging for that. Maybe you fall just below Dirge, but still, it is an awesome figure, and I'm just happy to have him in my collection. Number 5. Let me tell you, because of his hollowness, he kind of feels like somewhere in between what you would find on a traditional Titan class figure and something from you know, Cyberverse, but it feels like some sort of weird cross point between it because he doesn't have that traditional Titan weight. Yet, he's so awesome. True, he is a little bit bland as far as the details go for both robot and arc mode, but as far as just aesthetics and molding and functionality and fun, he kills it. But I can't deny that I've had a ton of fun with him. You can just definitely see that he is just, oh, that looks so cool. And the fact that it turns into a dude that's modeled on the last Autobot, that is just so cool, and definitely digging the fact, personally again, just as part of the collection. Number 4, this boy right here. A lot of people seem to give him hate. I grew up with the 90s X-Men. So his vehicle mode is definitely killing it for me. I love it. There is no doubt about that. But his robot mode, he is not the greatest as far as posability. He's almost acceptable. Plus his energy blast effects that he came with, they're okay, but they're not the greatest. You know, he's at least decent. He's not super huge like a Titan, nor is he Jetfire huge, but he's bigger than like a Voyager class Starscream. And that kind of gives him a little bit of flair. That's why I have him at number 4. And do keep in mind that he did beat out the Ark. Number 3. Well, we go from one crossover to another, guys, and I have to say, JP93, I think any other name that you guys give him will work, because that name just is crap. So personally, I call him Outback. Knowing this is Skids, that's also what makes him land at number 3, is because this is like a early release version of a legacy figure, but also because it is basically just the vehicle from Jurassic Park. And here we are 20 some odd years later in 2021, and we're getting figures of those iconic vehicles from those iconic movies, and the fact that it's a Transformer on top of all of that, that's why him and Gigawatt are among my favorites of the big movie crossover things that have been going on. So definitely a strong figure in his own right, because if I find Skids in the store, I just will be interested to see how he does stack up to Outback here. Number 2. Yes, boys, we had to go with yet another classic Beast Wars figure, and this is actually, as you can tell, the transmetal version, because this has not only been used as the color scheme that the tarantulas from the Beast Wars cartoon had whenever he was alive in the Universe comic book series, but also they have used this figure and its colors as a shattered glass version of tarantulas, a heroic Predacon, which, that's cool, I'm not gonna lie. It's a solid figure. It's not perfect, it's like 99% of the way there, but I was super stoked to pick this guy up. It probably should be no surprise that I love this thing, and that's why it is number 2 on the list. Alrighty guys, for a honorable mention before we get to the number 1 interesting pickup of this year, which is the Bumblebee Studio Series Dropkick. Bumblebee was probably the strongest, and I liked Dropkick's personality and how he was portrayed in the movie, so to actually have a figure of him, that's why he lands as an honorable mention. Number 1, it has to be Covert Agent Ravage. Is the beast mode. Initially I was a little bit weirded out by how the robot mode head looks with the beast mode, but when you finally get there and you keep in mind this is a cat head, it works, and so I'm okay with that. But obviously I think where its strength lies is in nearly almost 100% matching the on-screen model for Ravage. And you know, obviously like the cat legs on the back and the lower legs are not exactly what they need to be, but this is a lot closer than the other guy that we had for all those years. So, because in my opinion, he actually outclasses all these guys that have been shown so far, that's why he lands as the number 1 most interesting pickup. Other than that, guys, that has been, again, my top 10 weird and interesting pickups from 2021. There was a lot of other ones that I didn't show you. Majority of the Kingdom figures that we've got, I got like an Armada Cyclonus with like the Destruction Team, because they plug into the bottom of his helicopter mode, and where he can create all sorts of mayhem and stuff, but he just wasn't good enough than these guys. So, no hate towards Cyclonus. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed that video, and until next time, guys, We'll see you in another one.